Hello everybody, Havoc here, continuing our Thrones of Britannia unit roster breakdown series. Today we're going to take a look at Soothsayer, the other Viking Sea King faction in the game. Much like comparing Gwynedd and Strathclute, Soothsayer and Dublin will share about 90% of the same units, though Soothsayer will have a few more than the Ireland-based relative. Starting with generals, we still have a choice between Hearthguard, a hard-hitting, damage-soaking elite sword infantry unit, or your Royal Huscarls, a meat grinder of an elite axe unit, capable of devastating armor-piercing damage with 40 of their 65 melee damage going towards it. Spearmen are also the exact same as Dublin. There are some extremely cheap options for your Eastern Warband to your Eastern Spearmen, though if you want some solid spears to pull from, your Spear Herdmen and Speared Guard are well worth their weight in gold with excellent melee skill and melee damage on top of solid shield, armor, and morale stats. Swords are the only difference between the two factions, with Soothsayer having access to the North Sword progression line. They're a decent line of retinue and sword infantry, with their Norse Hussars on the same level stat-wise as the Eastern Champions, but cheaper to employ. In fact, when it comes to the Norse Mailed Hussar and the elite Eastman Herdman, I'd go for the more heavily armored Norse Mailed unit, as it's slightly cheaper while only losing a bit of melee skill and damage in the comparison. In terms of Axman, Soothsayer shares the same units as Dublin. You have access to a great variety of both shielded and unshielded Axmen, with the ability to field a rather large amount of cheaper units such as the Eastman Axe Warriors, a tier 2 retinue unit which features good melee skill and 19 of their 32 melee damage going to armor piercing. You'll still want to set aside some money for those higher tier units though, especially my current favorite, the Shield Biters, which can cause fear to all of the units around them. Look to the Berserkers and Eastman Huscarls for some ridiculous charge bonuses and attack, as these units will absolutely destroy about any armored unit they come into contact with. When it comes to ranged, Viking Sea Kings just aren't that good at it. The Eastman Archers and Eastman Hunters are simply a very weak bow infantry with low morale and terrible accuracy. As always, Skirmishers and Javelin Men have a much higher missile damage and accuracy over bows, though the Eastmen do have a bit of a shield value, which would make them better at taking ranged hits. As mentioned in the Dublin video, Soothsayer doesn't care too much for cav, with their Eastman line underperforming compared to other retinue cavalry and other factions. Their skirmisher cav are on par for their unit type, though I did miss in the Dublin video the fact that both the Eastman Scouts and Eastman Raiders have access to the wedge formation, which does make them a bit more deadly once their missile attack has been depleted. In all, Soothsayer is actually the beefier of the two Viking Sea factions with their extra sword units. The faction as a whole has a really solid mixture of units, and you could honestly go in a lot different directions with their builds. You can't go wrong with deploying a lot of Axmen though, as you will need to have units that can quickly chew through the enemy with your lack of good ranged and cav support. That's all for Soothsayer and the other Viking Sea King faction. Hope you enjoyed it. We only have a few factions left before we finish, so thank you for sticking with me. If you're enjoying this content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on so you'll always be up to date with my videos. Thanks again for watching. This is Havoc, and I'm out of here.